Hello, sisters. Welcome to the Sacred Medicine Podcast, weaving powerful, soulful practices into functional medicine. Step into this beautiful space of devotion and explore everything from nurturing foods, rituals, sexuality, and awakening your innate sensuality. It is time to own your radiance. This is the Sacred Medicine Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another week of the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I'm your host, Margaret Romero, and this week I have Cassie Mendoza-Jones. She is a best-selling author of You Are Enough, and It's All Good. She's a kinesiologist, a business alignment coach, naturopath, and speaker. She works with women as well as entrepreneurs, healers, coaches, and creatives who are driven, devoted, and honor their dreams, and who want to become more powerful and aligned to their bigger vision, clear away perfectionism, procrastination, and overwhelm, and create their own version of a beautiful and aligned business and life. So I have her on today because I just love how she also, as a naturopath, brings in some beautiful sacred elements and also a really kick-ass entrepreneur. So needed to have her on. I also wanted to know a lot more about her book, which is coming out next month. But we talk about how she uses kinesiology in her practice, as a business coach, how she uses it, which is a really cool technique. I love how she does this. We also talk about her new book. So it's called It's All Good, How to Trust and Surrender to the Bigger Plan. And as we all know, it is hard for us as entrepreneurs, or even not as entrepreneurs, to really surrender to what is really meant to be for us. It's really hard for us to stay patient. So we talk a lot about how she does that and how we can start doing that as well in our lives. And how she was able to write 2 books in the span of 2 years, and what her tricks and tips were for doing that. And I really love that, since I also have a book inside of me. And it has been just procrastination, which is really the one big thing. So I'm hoping that her tip will help me get to finally getting my book out there as well. So without further ado, here is Cassie Mendoza-Jones. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero, and today's guest is Cassie Mendoza-Jones. Welcome to the show, Cassie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I really, what attracted me to you was we have sort of similar, not paths, but we enjoy certain things. And though you are a business coach and I am not, but you are a naturopath as well as you do kinesiology. And I also know that you dabble in like crystal work. And I just love how we can kind of bring in medicine and bring in sort of sacred practices together, which is something that I love doing. And so that's what really attracted me to you and why I have you on the show today. I wanted to talk about that. And you also have a book coming out, so I'd love to jam on that as well.
Yes, amazing. Thank you. It is. I love being able to combine the, really practical with the spiritual. And I think that when we do that, we can create, whether it's a greater sense of health and wellness, but also just of well-being and fulfillment in life. So I'm really happy to know that's how, you found me or resonated with my work. So thank you.
Yes, it's definitely something that I do as a nurse practitioner. It's not all conventional medicine, and my world is not that. It's also integrative and functional, which is very much like a naturopath. But I also love combining, like I'll do chakra balancing and essential oils, and I do crystal work as well, and lots of visualizations and lots of woo-woo things that from the birth of this podcast, I've sort of come out of the spiritual closet, so to speak. So I commend you for sort of doing the same and combining these beautiful rituals together and helping women in business feel very aligned with what they're doing. And so that's a beautiful thing that you do.
Thank you.
So let's just talk a little bit about, you talk about, when you combine kinesiology. I'm just so curious about this because kinesiology is something that I have definitely dabbled in the past. I've learned a little, some techniques here and there. And at times, even when I'm in the store, I kind of wish that there was someone. I know that you can sort of do kinesiology on yourself too. There are times when I feel like I'd love someone to just do some, if I'm holding a food. So maybe, do you want to just briefly tell the audience a little bit about what kinesiology is and actually how do you incorporate that into your coaching?
Yeah, sure. So, excuse me. So I'll explain it kinesiology is understood differently actually in different countries, which sounds weird,
Okay.
but there have been times where I've explained it to someone, say from America, and it has a different kind of background or base. So the way I was trained and the way I practice is that it's muscle testing to tap into the subconscious to bring to the surface where there are stresses or blocks or imbalances in the body, mind, or spirit. And then you use the muscle testing. Once you know what the issue is, what the block is, you use the muscle testing to then ask the body, what is the body or soul or spirit or your emotional body? What do you need to clear that block and to move forward and to, come back into a space of flow, back into a space of ease. And so when I first started my practice, I worked solely as a nutritionist and naturopath, and I loved it. Like my main passion really was herbal medicine. So the work that I usually did was dietary based and herbal medicine based. And then of course, lifestyle tweaks where necessary. But what I would find is that I could say to a client over and over again, you need to be taking, here are the herbs for you to take. And I'd give them a bottle of herbs and I'd ask them to take their herbs. Or here is, this plan that I would love you to try and implement in your life. Or these are the foods I want you to be eating more of or less of. But if someone has a block around that, or if they're self-sabotaging, or if they have a fear that they can't do it, or if they have a fear of, low self-worth, or whatever it is that is stopping them from making those changes or implementing those changes in their life, there's only so many times you can kind of talk to someone about it in the space of a naturopath. There's only so many times I could talk to them about it. So when I could bring in kinesiology to help them get really clear on what was the issue, what is the block, and then what do they need to do to shift out of that space of disharmony or imbalance, it was life-changing and really business-changing. And my business changed quite dramatically in a really short period of time because all of a sudden I was able to not just focus on health and wellness, but also life stuff, like life alignment and business work. And so really organically, my clientele shifted. So instead of working with women for hormonal imbalances and dietary work, I was actually starting to see women who maybe that was a part of why they came to me, but they were also feeling stressed within their lives, within relationships, or within their businesses. And my work shifted to really be seeing entrepreneurs and other healers and coaches and writers and creatives, and whether or not someone was actually running their own business or just in corporate, but still have it going through stresses within their career, that my clientele shifted to do that. And it was wonderful because for me, I love health and wellness, but I was starting to feel that this might sound funny, but even within looking at health and wellness, I felt like I was only looking at one side of the coin. So when I could bring in the emotional side and the energetic side, that to me, for me and my business, that was that missing, that piece that I needed that I didn't even know I needed yet. So the way I work with it now is that I'd say 99% of my clients are entrepreneurs and healers, coaches, and creatives, and I work with them in business alignment coaching. And so from building my business I started my business in 2011, I combine this business alignment coaching with kinesiology to help them get into alignment and create a business that is truly aligned to who they are and not doing what they think they should be doing or feeling pressured or stressed, and helping them clear blocks to receiving. So whether that's money, clients, going to the next level in their business, working on projects. I've written now 2 books in 2 years. So helping women if they're writing a book or working on a creative project. And because of my background in naturopathy, I can bring in herbal medicine when I need. So if they're also then feeling stressed or tired, I either prescribe herbs or I help them with their diet, or so it's this full, the big picture work. And I'm constantly grateful for kinesiology, really, for opening my eyes and opening up my business. Yeah.
Wow, so good. And so when you are working with someone and let's say there's a block or there's a fear, and you're working with them over the phone, right? Is this all over the phone?
Skype. So it's Skype? It's video Skype, yeah.
Okay. And there's a block of some kind, because we all have them as entrepreneurs.
Yes.
They always come up. So you're clearing out by using kinesiology, you're clearing out that fear, or are you helping to allow them to figure out which emotion is blocking them, or how does that work?
Yeah. So I should say, I used to see clients in person. So they would come to, I work from home. Well, I worked from home for the last 3.5 years. So I started in the clinic and then I worked from home. So they would come to me and they would lie down on a massage table, so on a massage bed. And I would do it in person, which is how most kinesiologists work.
Right.
And then when my work shifted to be more business coaching, really, and business alignment coaching, and even with the naturopathy on the side, I didn't really need to be in the same room as my client. And also my clientele became worldwide, so I couldn't be in the same room as them.
Right.
And so I moved to working via Skype. So the way it works via Skype is that I'm actually muscle testing myself for my client. So I intend to take on their energy, or my intention is that I'm testing myself for my client. Right. And also because I've been doing this for a while, I will intuitively either work out what a block is, or it'll come to me in an intuitive hit. It's also through coaching and guiding and talking. So let's say it's the kinesiology, and we're creating a goal together. So we call them kinesiology goals. Essentially, it's an affirmation, or it's something that one wants to work towards, or something that you want to feel or align to or receive that you feel a block to. So as a really simple example, it might be, I am enough, let's say that. And so we put in the goal saying I am enough. And then we use the muscle testing to find out what is the block or stress around you feeling enough. And it might be that there's an emotion. It might be that there's a chakra block coming up. It might be that there's an attitude that is getting in the way, a limiting belief. It could be a point that you need to hold in your body, like an acupressure point. It could be any kind of mental, emotional, or physical block. And so we find the block through the muscle testing, and then we find what does your body need. And that's where it could be, we could just talk it through. It could be something that you need to go and do within your life. So it could be there's someone you need to speak to, there's something you need to do, there's journaling that you need to do around it. There could be an attitude or a belief that you need to kind of take on or embody more of in your life. It could be about boundaries. It could be something to do in a relationship within yourself. It could be something really really practical, like, as I mentioned, an acupressure point to touch, or an essence to take, or an oracle card or a tarot card might come up, and that might create more awareness around what you need to do. And then it's all about clearing the blocks and then taking action from that space of being in alignment, of being in more flow. And it's really incredible what shifts when it's through a session and then afterwards, because it's just doing an energetic tidy up. You're just clearing what's in the way to make space for where you want to be going, what you want to be receiving, what you want to be embodying, what you want to be magnetizing and drawing into your life as well. So that's how I work with it. And then you can apply it to business, which is what I mostly do, but also life. Like if a client comes to me, or let's say they book in my business alignment program and it's 6 sessions, right? If they come to me at the second session and they're like, I can't talk about business, this life stuff, like this happened on the weekend and it's really affecting my energy, my concentration, my mood, I don't say, no, we have to look at your business. We look at whatever is coming up for you. And kinesiology will bring to the surface the thing that is in the way now, but it doesn't mean that. So it'll bring up what's in the way, and it will always mean if something comes up, it's because it's the right time for you to be looking at it within this session. And also it's safe for you to look at. So nothing will come up that is like too big or too scary or that you can't manage. So it's always for your highest good. And it's this beautiful, energetic up-leveling and clearing. So it doesn't matter if it's work or life or health, but the way I have been using it in the past like 4 years is in a business way. And then that's even how my books. So my first book, You Are Enough, came out last year, 2016. And it's about how to get out of the comparison trap, how to stop comparing yourself to other people, how to increase your self-esteem and your self-confidence, and really tap into your innate self-worth. And that experience came from, the book was written through my experience of comparing myself in business. And my new book, It's All Good, is about how to trust and surrender to the bigger plan and pick yourself up after failure, after disappointment, reintegrate, recalibrate. And that also came from an experience of going through what I perceived at the time to be a business failure, but in actual fact, set me on this amazing path. As failures so often do, they help us course correct. And both of those came from my business, and both of the books have been written with this business alignment coaching. Well, they're not business-based books, they're personal development, but the base of it came from me looking at my life from a space of what is in the way and how can I clear this?
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Well, let's talk about your new book, since we're on the topic, because I love, so the title is It's All Good, How to Trust and Surrender to the Bigger Plan. And that is something that, let me tell you, is not an easy thing. And it's definitely something that I have to consciously do every single day, if not multiple times per day, is to just know and trust that things or people or the right job or the right office space, which is something I'm currently working on, is going to show up, and trusting and sort of letting go instead of trying to force things to happen. But so tell us a little bit about this. Yeah, let's dive into it.
Yeah, sure. So it's really what you said of trusting that the things that we are working towards are either on their way to us, whether we have them yet or not, or if they're not arriving and we're not going to receive them, something better is coming to fill its space. So a couple of years ago, I launched a really big project in my business, and I'd spent like almost a year working on it. I had invested thousands of dollars, so many hours, so much intention, and it didn't take off the way I had expected it to. And expected is the key word, because I had such high and, in hindsight, rigid expectations of what I wanted how I wanted this to go. And I can see that I was trying to kind of not co-create the situation, but like actually control the outcome. And through the next year after that project launched, it still did, like in hindsight, I can see it did really well. And I learned so much from it. But at the time, I was giving myself such a hard time because I thought that I had failed, and I thought that I had done something wrong. And I was being so hard on myself about everything that I thought I should have done differently or better or more of. And there was this big period, probably like 6 to 9 months, where I had to kind of put the pieces of everything back together, because I'd felt like I had failed, really. And even at the time, if I'd said to someone else, I'm feeling like a failure, it wasn't something that I don't think anyone else could have truly understood, because I was the one going through it. Like I was the one that felt honestly like I was in the trenches. So I spent this 6 to 9 months kind of integrating from all the lessons that I had learned, recalibrating. It was a big up-leveling. It was a really big expansion. Like if we think of it in terms of the chakras, I had spent so long in my upper chakras, so like receiving guidance and information and having this very clear vision of what this project was going to be, and putting my heart into it, and using, throat chakra. Like I wrote 100,000 words for this project in a space of about 4 to 5 weeks. Like it was all upper chakra stuff. And that before the launch, and after the launch, it was all lower chakra. It was like, let's expand your base. Let's crumble everything that you thought you stood on, and reintegrate and recalibrate, and help you stand even more firmly and be even more grounded in who you are and what you stand for. And it was probably towards the end of going through this, which you don't know it's the end until afterwards, right? But at what I can now see was near the end, I just thought, what can I do with all of this that I've gone through A. And B, I had for so long, throughout the time of going through it, I'd been looking for a book that would help me make sense of what I was going through, that would help me understand more about surrendering to where I was, more about trusting. And I didn't want a book that specifically just spoke about failure. I wanted a book that was going to help me understand the energetic components of what I was going through and the emotional, and not just like the very pragmatic, which is amazing and I love it. And I hope that I have conveyed some of that within my book. But I wanted a combination of practical and pragmatic and spiritual and soulful work.
Right.
And then this idea dropped in, and it was like, you know what, you will get through this, and then you will write that book. You'll write the book that you wish that you had going through this. And that idea I couldn't have made up. If I had thought that 6 months before, I would have said, oh my God, I can't write a book about this. I can barely manage going through this. But through going through it and through understanding that it's what you said before, of that the more we actually try to control and grip and force, the more we feel out of alignment with who we are. And it's in the letting go that we actually find our flow again and can step into a greater sense of self. And the surrendering to where we are can be so hard, and yet that is where so much magic is, because the truth is, even if you think you can control your life, you can't. We can't control what is going to happen to us. So we have to show up anyway, and we can choose to show up from a space of trust and surrender, or from a space of fear and that lack of faith. And so trusting the bigger plan is something that, I mean, as you said, it can be quite hard to do, but the alternative is to live in fear. So to trust that we are on the right path, and to trust that the things that are happening to us, we're always learning from, we're always growing. It actually makes life so much more joyful. And the book is, I mean, I go through, how to manage going through a failure, how to pick yourself back up afterwards, how to integrate and recalibrate, how to set new dreams and goals, and manage beautifully with being in the spaces in between the setting of the goals and seeing your dreams or something better come to you. And also, if we don't receive our dreams, that's also perfect. Like we're not always going to receive everything we want, and why should we? Like, there's also beauty in what else comes to us, not just the things that we are desiring, and really trusting in the co-creation, like knowing that we are supported.
So good. And so what happens? Like, how do you, tell us a couple of things that we can do, because we all have issues with surrendering. I mean, it is just, especially women who are, entrepreneurs, who are very strong and empowered women. Yes. We love action. It's like, we need to have that thing, and we need to have it now. And how do I get to that thing and have it now? And so it is so hard to tell women like us to just like chill. Okay, just chill. You're just gonna, you're just gonna wait. Action. There'll always be an action, but to kind of just have more patience, and that I feel is extremely difficult, and something that I have to. It gets hard to do, and to wait for something, to me, feels like I'm wasting time.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because everyone hates waiting. No one likes waiting. And so what is a nicer, like if we reframe it, it's instead of waiting, it's understanding that this is a space in between, right? Like, let's say you're in a space in between. Yeah. And it's understanding that what you are working towards is working its way towards you as well. But we can't we can't know the timing of it. We don't have that elusive crystal ball that we sometimes want. And actually, if we had the crystal ball, we wouldn't want to know everything that is happening in our future. Right. And I've written that in the book. So if we were to be told what is going to happen in our future, we lose free will. And it's within our free will that we take those beautiful actions. That's where that inner drive and passion and fire comes from. So you don't want to actually know what would happen in your future, even though we think sometimes that we do. Right. What we want is that confirmation that we're going to be okay. And we can actually receive that ourselves through being, and I'll give more practical tips because I don't want this to sound like just like I want it to be practical for women and men as well. But by being really grounded in today, we can actually trust in our future more, because we only have, and I don't say this to be morbid, but we have today, right? And so if there anything that we can do within today to take action towards what we want to work on, but also to look after ourselves in a way that brings joy into our life. I find that, and I found this so much when I was going through this, I called it the Great Surrender in the book, when I was going through this period where everything felt so stuck in my life. And I say that actually there was still a couple of areas of my life where things felt flowy, but most areas in my life felt like they were at this standstill. And I felt like I was waiting. It's what you said. I felt like I was waiting for something to happen, for something to shift, just for me to not be where I was. And that was that pivotal moment where I had to let go of that feeling of waiting and actually live and be present now. And a few things that I did to help me do that was I actually gave myself less to do within my day and life. Like I gave myself more white space, and it was more space to read, more space to, if a friend said, do you want to go for lunch? And I would have usually said, no, I'm working. I said, yes, let's go for lunch. Like I just allowed myself to be a little bit more light and playful in my life, because I would then, if I didn't, I'd find myself kind of in my own head, just overthinking how stuck I felt, versus going for lunch and laughing with a girlfriend and sitting outside in the sunshine, or, going for a glass of wine at 5 p.m. on a Thursday when I would usually be at home still working. So I just kind of shifted my lifestyle a little bit to actually make more space for joy, because when we feel more joyful, even if there's something shitty happening on one side of our life, if on the other side we can go out with friends or family or our partner or our children or whatever, and we can find lightness and joy, we can remind ourselves of the other side of why we are here. And it's not just for the thing that we're working towards. We can get really, we can become too laser focused on manifesting and on what we want. And we stop to enjoy today, and we stop enjoying our life as it is. And that bringing joy back in really helped me, because it makes everything feel lighter. And you can look at what feels stuck and you can be like, you just feel more positive and more optimistic. And I also found that really focusing on what was flowing and what was working in my life, even if it felt tiny, like if I was walking to the car and I found 50 cents on the floor, I would pick it up and I would thank the 50 cents. I would thank the universe for me finding that, for me being the one person on the street who actually looked down and found that 50 cents.
Right.
And it doesn't matter that it wasn't 5 cents or $50. It was 50 cents, but that was me aligning to flow and abundance and receiving. And the more we can focus on that, as opposed to focusing on where we feel stressed or stuck, that helps us come back into flow and stay in flow as well.
I love that. I think that's definitely true. And it's so easy to be in our heads, and just thinking, okay, well, so I've been recently looking for office space in Manhattan, and it's been a couple of months now. And I thought by now that I would have the space.
Yeah.
And there are spaces. There's spaces everywhere. They're just not my space. I've not found something that I feel is aligned with me, and I feel immediate, like this is it. And it is now September, and it's been a couple of months that I haven't had an actual space. And so I could be freaking out over it, but I'm not. And I have to, every single day as the day goes on, I just have to remind myself, you know what? The right space, it's around the corner. You're going to find it. How could you not find it? Like, of course you're going to find it. It's going to happen. Maybe it's just not going to happen on what my timing was, like it needs to be by September 1st or whenever it was that, I think it was September 1st that I said, that would be great if I can find something. But here we are, it's September 19th, and we're still looking. And as the weeks go on, actually, I have to admit that I'm starting to see things that are because of the spaces I have seen, I'm way more clear as to
Yeah.
what the specifications that I need than I did when I
Yes.
first started looking. I was kind of a little
Perfect.
like, yeah, I could have that or this. It doesn't really matter. And now I'm like,
Mm.
no, this is what I want, and this is how big it needs to be, and it has to have this and that. And so, and now it's narrowing it down. So
Yeah, I was
I know
about to
it's
say,
coming.
do you have a list of what you want in your space?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
good. Um, and the other thing that you could do is, okay, so you've got a list and you know like the areas that you want it in.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, there was something about what you just said, and the thought has just left me, but it will come back. But about being really clear. Yeah, well, with every space that you don't get, you are closer to the space that you want.
Mm-hmm.
But the thought has lost me, but it will come back. It'll probably come back in a
Okay.
minute as soon as we start talking about something else. Oh,
Yeah. So with every single space that I've seen, I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. I do not want to walk up. I do not, because at first I thought they were like, oh, it's like a 2 or 3 story walk up. And I'm like, I don't know. Okay, well, I'll check it out. And now I'm like, definitely no walk up. Definitely, like, it needs a
yes,
doorman. It needs an elevator. I won't take any walk ups anymore. So with
yes,
each single time, I'm narrowing it down to the the thing that I really, really want.
yes.
So
So good.
it's been a trip, but it's been good and very hard for me to not be freaking out. And I think, just a couple of years ago, I would have been freaking out, and I would have forced myself to
Mm,
possibly get a spot that I didn't really like
yeah,
just because it needed to be
yes,
by September 1st.
yeah. And that's kind of how you like if you find yourself looking at a spot. So a few years ago, I'd never wanted a shop front, but a few years ago, before I moved to work from home, I was just walking down the road, and a shop that is on a beautiful street corner was available for lease, and I all of a sudden got this fun idea of maybe I could take over the lease, and I can have a shop front where I can have stock in the front, and then I can have a consultation room out the back, 1 or 2 rooms. And the idea was great, and the idea came easily. But as soon as I went about trying to make it happen or seeing if it could happen, all these blocks started coming up.
Mm,
And they weren't blocks that were like self-sabotage, like, like little tests to
right.
check that I was into it. It was actually just that it was completely not in alignment with me, and it was not right. And all the blocks were coming up to be like, don't take this, don't take this, don't take this. And finally I was getting quite close to, looking at the contract and taking that next step. And I realized that because I was trying so hard to make it happen, I was missing all the little hints along the way that were saying this isn't for you. And I was trying to force it because to fit this thing that matched the idea I had in my head. And I let it go, and I didn't take the lease. And it was actually about 2 months later that I moved to work from home, which was the best decision ever. And I sometimes think about that, and I think, what if I had like sliding doors? And what if I had forced that to happen? Where would I be? How would life be different? What would happen to my business? And yeah, so if it's not working, letting it go and like giving it up, like, so you're still going to take action obviously, but like letting go of that need for controlling will actually allow it to come to you in a way that feels effortless, and there'll be so much more ease involved in it.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. Totally. Yeah. And I think that even um, when the hints start to come up, or blocks start to happen, or things are not flowing with ease, I think, and I used to be guilty of this too. I used to like really try to like, oh, really? Okay. So that block's coming up. Well, we're doing it anyway. Like 10
Yes.
blocks. I don't care. We're getting that. That's the thing I want. I don't care. And then it would all fall to shit. And then it would
Yeah.
just be a total mess.
Yeah.
And I don't do that anymore either.
Yeah.
If things don't flow, they're just not right. And I
Yeah.
don't force anything anymore, whether
Yeah.
that's a relationship, I'm single and dating, anything,
Mm.
any possible thing in life. I think it's just so much. easier than
It is.
to make things and force things to happen, like you were saying before.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh gosh, that's so good. So, let's see here. What else I wanted to. So when you, this is one of the things that you have found, when you wrote this book, How to Trust and Surrender to the Bigger Plan.
Yeah.
It's obviously something that you are also teaching your clients, that come to you, because it's definitely key. I mean, not only in life, but in business for sure.
Yeah.
And when there are any hiccups or even contracts that need to be signed and something's just not right or something's not feeling good, I mean, that's a big clue. Now, do you use the kinesiology to help women if they're like, I don't know if I should sign that contract? I
don't use it as as fortune telling, but the kinesiology and the energetic work that I do can help women get clear on within themselves, that they can make the right decisions for them. So I can test to see, so there's a few things. Like you can muscle test to ascertain the level of stress, like energetic stress around something. But that doesn't mean it's wrong to do. It just means that you might be feeling a stress around it. So the way that I would work, like let's say a client came and they're like, I'm going through this dilemma, I could go this way or this way. We might set a goal and align them to feeling clear to make the right decision for themselves. And so then we'll finish the session. Whatever comes up in the session might support one decision or the other. And within, leaving the session or finishing up, they might get even more insight and more intuitive hits on what is right for them. So it's more about clearing your energy so that you are in alignment, so that you make the right choices, versus the muscle testing saying, yes, do this, or no, don't do that.
Okay. So is it picking up if you're feeling positive or negative about it? Because it's not really saying yes or no, don't do it. But what if you are really stressed about?
Yeah, so we can help to clear the stress. So it might come up saying, and it's actually funny because I once had a session with a kinesiologist when I was still studying, and she tested me. She tested the stress around something that I was doing in my business, and she said, your stress is really high, it's not going to happen for you. As in, like, because your stress is high, what you're working on won't work. And I left that session and I was like, oh my God, it was actually to be honest, quite awful, because the point of kinesiology is not to use your muscle testing and not to say to a client or to yourself, oh, there's so much stress there, so that's not going to work for you. It's to say, where are you feeling stressed, and what does your body need to shift that stress, or to shift that limiting belief, or to shift that self-sabotage, or that negative mindset that you've placed over yourself, or that old belief system. So, and then from that space of feeling more grounded, feeling calmer, feeling clear, being in flow, being in alignment, then you can take action, make decisions. And the action to take might be to not take action on something. But kinesiology is not used to fortune tell or to say to someone, you can do that, you can't do that. It's about clearing and balancing and aligning your energy so that you can do what you need to do because it feels right for you on every level.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that.
I know, right?
All right. So anything else that you wanted to share about your book?
Well, mostly I'm just so excited for it to be out because as I hold it here, it is not out yet. So it'll be out in October 2017, mid-October worldwide. And you can order it from Amazon. If you're in the States, you can get it from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and, from Amazon worldwide, and Australia and New Zealand, Booktopia. And I'm just really excited for it to come out because I know that for me, as I said, I wanted a book that was going to be filled with practical tips, but also the energetic tools. And I really hope that is what I have. My intention was always to make It's All Good have that balance of like, here's how you might be feeling, and energetically, here's how you can clear this, and here's a practical tip or tool so that we can really tune into trust and really achieve that peace of mind that comes from knowing that we are supported and that we can surrender to where we are and that, as the title says, that it is all good. So yeah, I'm very excited for it to be out, and thank you so much for having me on here to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm curious how you have written up one book per year now, since you had one that came out last year and now this year. Are you are you someone that's like writing every morning, or are you, I don't know. That just seems like a lot of work. Did you, and I also want to know if you self-published or did you go through a publisher?
So my books are both published with Hay House. They're through a publisher. Yeah. So the first book I wrote in 2015, and then You Are Enough I wrote 2015. It came out early 2016, and then It's All Good I wrote a little bit over 2016, and then mostly I wrote it in mostly I finished it early 2017. So I definitely, when I'm writing my books, so You Are Enough I wrote the first draft in a 6-week period, and then I left it for a couple of weeks. Then I did the big edit over 2 or 3 days. And then for It's All Good, I wrote the first third really slowly over a year, because I was still really promoting and launching You Are Enough. And I didn't yet know what It's All Good was about. Like I did, but I didn't. Like the full scope of the work hadn't come through yet. And then I wrote the next 2/3 really quickly over an 8-day period, and then like a 9-day period, but with a 3-month gap in between. So the process of writing each book was worlds apart, like so different. I've always loved writing. I've always written. I definitely write every day. I'm not always writing. Like I know what my third book will be about, I'm pretty sure, but I haven't started that yet. But when I'm writing a book, I write every day. And I'll take a day off when I'm tired, or if, I'm not strict on myself, but I will make that space and time to write, because I love writing and I love writing books. So for me, it's like such a joy, and it's like a treasured time if I can make space to, block out some things. I don't become a creative hermit. Like I very much don't do that. For me, I love writing and being creative, and I think it can lift our life up. It doesn't mean that we need to like not wash our hair, or I see people like on social media being like, I've just finished my book, I haven't washed my hair, I had breakfast in a month, and I've just seen the sunshine, and I'm like, oh God, why are you writing like that? Like, how can that help your creative process? So for me, I don't create like that, and actually I shouldn't judge, because everyone has their own process. But I actually teach in my Love What You Create workshop, which I ran around Australia as an in-person writing workshop, and then I turned it into an online course earlier this year. I teach a way of creating that it's joyful, and it lifts you up, and you are creating in a way that is healthy for your creativity and also healthy for your mind and body, so that you can create work that you really love for your business, or if you're writing a book. And so I don't feel, for me to write a book, there are definitely moments where I'm like, I don't know what I'm saying, or where I feel, there'll be resistance that pops up. But I know now if the resistance is fatigue, or if the resistance is resistance, and it's actually because something really big is coming through. So when I create, I'll wake up every morning and I exercise. I have a really good breakfast. I get a coffee. I sit down and I write at home, or I'll write at the library, or I'll go to a cafe. I have a really long lunch break, and then I chill and I'll watch a Netflix show. Like I'll have a really good 2-3 hour break. And then I go back to my writing and I write for another couple hours, and then I relax in the evening. So like it feels really balanced. Like when I'm writing and in that creative space, I feel really grounded and balanced. And I'm looking after myself the whole time, because when we're looking after ourselves, we actually we can listen to our intuition even better.
True. So true. Yeah. So on the days that you say that you mentioned something about like 8 to 9 days of like straight writing, when you're like really, popping out tons of content. Are those days like, are they just what you said that they are? Like you take these breaks, or are they like 8-hour writing or 10-hour writing days, or?
No, so those were, so I wrote, so over 2016, I'd written about 20,000 words of It's All Good. And then I booked out January of early 2017 to finish It's All Good. And I gave myself the month. So no clients, no like interviews, no nothing. I was just going to write It's All Good. And because I had given myself so much space, I wrote the next 20,000 words in a 9-day or 8-day period. It was like from a Monday to like a Wednesday or something, or a Tuesday. And I had not intended it to be so fast, but if I sat down and I knew that I had, so like if you sit down within an hour, you can write 1,000 words if you're just sitting down and writing. And I'm very good now at writing and not editing as I go. I edit later. If you edit while you write, you don't write because you are just editing, and you have to write to edit. So it just doesn't work. It's like trying to bake ice a cake before you've baked the cake. Like you just have to write first. So I finished the first draft and it was 40,000 words, and I knew that it wasn't done, but I knew that it was done for now. So I sent it off to my publisher and I was like, check it out, but like I know it needs to be longer. And they loved it. They were really happy with it, but they said, yes, if you can get it up by even, I was even just going to try to get it up by 5,000-10,000 words. And I was like, you know what, that's so easy to do. I just need to have a break from the work for a little bit. And in that break, I wrote the content for my Love What You Create in-person workshop. And I was doing the tour around, I did 4 cities, 4 or 5, I can't remember. I think 4 cities. And in between 2 of the cities, I went to Byron Bay I did the same thing when I edited You Are Enough. I took myself off on a 3-day, 2-night, 3-day writing an editing retreat. So I did the same thing for It's All Good. And I went and I was just going to try and make it a little bit longer. And between going away and doing that, and then a couple days after that, which I think was like an 8-day period, I got the book up to another 20,000 words in length. And I actually think I'd probably started it a little bit before, because I feel like when I left Byron, the book was done. So I must have been doing it a little bit before, in that week before. So that 20,000 words within a space of 8 or 9 days, I wasn't doing 8-hour writing days. I was probably writing from like 9 till 12 and then having a really long break till like 2 or 3 and then writing. I mean, it's probably like 5 or 6 hours, but it feels like there are lots of breaks in between it. Okay. So yeah, and it feels you don't notice the time, like the day will just go. It doesn't feel like I'm sitting at my desk like slogging it out. So it just kind of right. Yeah, the time just kind of, it does fly, because especially in the morning, I find when I'm writing in the morning, I look up and it's 11:30 and my concentration by 11:30, 12 is like shattered, and I need to that's why I take a long break, because if I take a short break at lunchtime, I don't have that concentration back by the time I want to sit down and write again. So I break for like 2 or 3 hours sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for shining a light on that, because I know that a lot of people have books inside of them, and the idea of it has been for years, and no one ever really stops sometimes to even, put pen to paper or start writing it. And so thank you for explaining how easy, I guess, maybe, I don't know if that's the right word to use.
Well, simple is a good word, because it doesn't mean it's easy, but it's simple. And it was actually author Todd Henry who gave me the advice in one of his books. And then when I sat down to write You Are Enough, the first day, I tagged him in an Instagram post with a quote from one of his books. I think it was The Accidental Creative. And I put one of his quotes in, and he replied to me and he said, no one writes a book, they only write sections that later become a book. So that's one thing to know. And the quote that I had put up of his was, in his book, he suggests to write 1,000 words a day. And that was my goal when I wrote You Are Enough. I was like, you know what? I'm going to write 1,000 words a day, because if I write 1,000 words a day for a week, that's 7,000 words. And then after 2 weeks, it's 14,000 words, and it's 21,000 words. And it just goes up by 1,000 a day. And that is how I wrote the first draft in 6 weeks. It's not because I'm superhuman. It's not because I know something that other people don't. Well, I know the 1,000 word a day trick, but that's, and that 1,000 words a day trick, I'm going to call it a trick, is what helps you create this beautiful momentum. So you don't have to look at the book and say, how am I going to get it from 10,000 words to 70,000 words? You say, oh, cool, that's 60 more days of writing 1,000 words a day. And when I wrote You Are Enough, I was still seeing clients in the afternoons and I actually didn't take the month off. So I really just wrote from like 8 till 9:30 in the morning, or 8 till 9 even. And some days I'd write for longer. Some days I'd write more than 1,000 words. Some days I'd write less. But that was my main goal. And I tracked the word count every day in my day planner, which was really fun to do. And that creates so much momentum. So I can really recommend that trick.
I love that tip. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, wow. Okay. So we are coming down to the end of our interview. Is there any last things that you wanted to share with the audience before telling us how to find you?
No, I feel like we've covered some wonderful things. So I feel good.
Okay. And and how can people find you?
Sure. So I'm at Cassie Mendoza-Jones on Instagram, and my website is also CassieMendoza-Jones.com. And same over on Facebook. So I'm mostly on Instagram though. And on my website, you'll find links to purchase my books online, and online courses and meditations and free workbooks and my blog and all of that. So yeah, that's mostly where I'm hanging out online.
And I also saw that you have some bonuses if people pre-order. Is that right?
Yes. So I'm not sure when the podcast will be up, but yes, there's a pre-order bonus. It's a toolkit valued at $77. So you get a Create Flow When You Feel Stuck workshop, like an online workshop. There's a meditation album, and there is a beautiful desktop wallpaper. There are two. And so that you can get if you pre-order my book from CassieMendozaJones.com. You'll see the link like on the home page. There's a big, beautiful banner to pre-order. And then you just return to that page once you've pre-ordered with your order confirmation number. And you just pop the number in and you get instant access to the pre-order bonus. And also then you're one of the first people to get my book once it comes out.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it. Let's see. So I always end all my calls with just 3 quick, simple questions.
Yes.
Let's see. What is currently at your bedside?
So I have some crystals, I have hand cream, and I have a Kindle full of all my books that I love reading, and a few paper, proper paperback books. I actually can't remember which ones they are now, but at the moment I'm reading The Woman in Cabin 10 by, I forget her name, but it's a psychological thriller, which I love.
Oh, it sounds like it. Is it good?
Yes, it's really good. I'm about 30% in, and I've just hit the point where I think something big is happening, so I'm very into it.
And curious, which crystals do you have by your bedside?
So at the moment I have a smoky quartz next to my bed, just for extra grounding, which I love. It's actually been there for months. So that's what I have by my bed right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. What's the weather there now?
So the weather, we're in early days of spring.
Okay.
So it's actually, I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit, but it's like in between cool and warm. Like you need a jacket, but it's not cold.
So that leads to my next question is, what do you wear to bed? It's just, I was curious to see what the temperature was.
I actually just wear a singlet and undies, but like I get too hot if I wear pants when I'm sleeping.
Yeah. I totally get that. And you did answer my third question, which is, what book are you totally loving right now? Is there anything else on your Kindle that you just purchased?
Yes. So I just read All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. And sorry, I just got something in my throat. Hold on. It's a fiction. It's a bestseller, and it was absolutely amazing. I read it in about 3 days when I was on holiday, or 2 days even. So All the Right Places by Jennifer Niven is amazing. It's young adult fiction, but you don't feel like you're reading young adult. Like it's just brilliant. So that I absolutely loved. And so I find that when I'm writing nonfiction, like when I'm writing my own books, I read a lot of fiction to just like turn my mind off. And
right.
So and if I'm ever reading a nonfiction, I'm always reading a fiction at the same time. I'm always reading a novel at the same time. Yeah.
So interesting. I can't remember the last time I actually read any fiction.
Oh, really?
I know. And I need to switch it up. So thank you for, The Woman in Cabin 10 sounds, it's a thriller, you said, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it's like, I'm not yet at the point where I know what is happening, but it's like a psychological thriller, which I just always love.
So cool.
Yeah. I read a lot of those. Like sometimes I have to have a break and read something light because I read a lot of psychological thrillers, and I love crime, like historical World War II drama, and I love, like, on Netflix I watch a lot of British crime dramas and things like Peaky Blinders, and I watch a wide range of shows and I read a wide range of books, but I actually read more fiction than nonfiction.
Oh, very cool. There used to be a series that I used to read a long time ago. It was a woman who was based out of Virginia. She was an FBI agent, and it was all about murders. And I can't remember her name for the life of me.
Oh, is it was the author Lisa Gardner?
No.
Oh, that her people are in Boston, like her. But yeah, I read a lot of Lisa Gardner. I had to stop that for a bit because I started to get actually scared at night because there's a lot of murder, and it was a bit hectic after a while. But they're brilliant books. But yeah, I read. It's quite a contradiction, actually. I write personal development and I read psychological thrillers, but maybe it all helps because I love understanding people, and yeah, maybe it's all related. I'm sure it is.
Yeah. So you gave me an idea. I should probably just switch it up because it's either medical or it's like some form of self-help, or it's maybe someone that I'm interviewing for the podcast. I'll end up getting their book. So that my Kindle's pretty full of a lot of new books. So, Cassie, thank you so much. I really loved connecting with you, and I'm loving your passion with how you're combining kinesiology and naturopath with your business coaching. Congratulations on your book that's coming out next month. That's so wonderful. And that's on my Kindle list. So I'm happy to share whatever you need. And I'm going to look for you on Instagram as well. Make sure that we're connected there.
Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely loved chatting with you. And thank you for having me on your podcast.
Oh, yes. No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, thank you so much for listening this week. If you are interested in finding more about Cassie and for her upcoming book and for all the show notes, head on over to margaretromero.com/episode 47. And I would so love it if you can head on over to iTunes, leave a 5-star review. If you have been loving all of these beautiful conversations with all of these really wise individuals, that would so warm my heart. Have the most beautiful week. Love to you all, and I'll talk to you soon.